Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. P, a board certified OBGYN, and today we're talking about what is a healthy pre-pregnancy weight. By the end of this video, you'll learn what a healthy pre-pregnancy weight is and what you can do about it. You'll also learn what is the BMI and why do we use it so strongly when it comes to healthcare and clinical medicine. We'll also talk about the risks associated with low or high pre-pregnancy weight. And lastly, we'll talk about the tips that will be helpful in the process of achieving a healthy pre-pregnancy weight, but also a postpartum weight projectile as well. So let's dive on into our topic today, one that I feel like every female before she enters pregnancy is probably thinking about. And that's because we know that weight changes during pregnancy can be quite vast, right? You can gain upwards of even 100 pounds during pregnancy. And so as we go through these transitions, we would like to know what normal is and optimize that to the best of our abilities. So I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you have this question. I'm glad that you're curious, and we are going to talk about it now. Normal pre-pregnancy weight isn't just a number. This is not, we want to be 110 pounds. This is not where you want to be 150 pounds. It actually is very unique to you. And that's because your height as well as your weight plays a huge part as far as what becomes normal for you when it comes to weight. And so we don't want to put like a strong, hardcore number here. We want you to be able to figure out what that number is for you. And the way that you do that is by the body mass index. BMI for short. This is a calculation that was developed many years ago. And you know, if we sit and really talk about all the issues concerning BMI, we might say, is it really a good scale or a good calculator to use? It isn't, but we don't have a better alternative. And so because we don't, we use what we have and use it to guide us, and not necessarily for us to be, you know, really strict on ourselves and go crazy when we don't achieve exact numbers. Our goal is to use the BMI to be able to guide us, to let us know if our current weight is a good weight, and if we have a normal weight before we start pregnancy, then I'll tell you, it helps to decrease the risks that could be associated with weight in pregnancy and help you to recover during your postpartum period as well. So let's talk about the BMI just a little bit more. If you are a mathematician and you'd like to get a piece of pen and paper and do this math yourself, you can. And the calculation goes like this. You want to take your weight in kilograms and divide it by your height in meter squared. Okay, for me, it is not that easy of a calculation. And so I instead will Google BMI calculators, because these calculators on the internet already has this pre-programmed for you that you can literally put in your height and your weight in pounds or kilograms, and it will do the conversions for you and give you a number. Now, what is more universal is what those numbers mean. So, underweight is considered to be a BMI less than 18.5. And so, if you'd like to know where you stand, go ahead and calculate it. And if you're under 18.5, as a female, that says that you are not at a weight that we consider to be normal for your body to function and for you to feel well. Normal is then 18.6 to 24.9. This is where we want a majority of people to be. This is a normal, healthy weight. This is where we know that your muscles, your joints, your organs, everything will function well because it's being sustained daily by correct nutrients and it's functioning well. Your metabolism is doing well. Everything is in a good zone. And so this is where we want you to be. If you have a BMI greater than 25 and up to 30, you are considered to be overweight. This is the beginning of a danger zone. And when I say a danger zone, I'm saying that if we're in an overweight status, we know that we have a high risk of getting into obesity. We know that we have a high risk of having metabolic disorders. We know that there's more stress on your muscles and your joints. There's more stress on your organs like your heart and your brain. And this can lead to having so many other comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, you can have a stroke. So many things are linked having an excess amount of fats that can lead to us having chronic conditions that can affect our lifespan. Therefore, a BMI greater than 30 is called obesity. And there are actually different degrees of obesity that can go up to having BMIs greater than 40 or even 50. And so we want to stay away from any BMI that is too low or too high, because we know that it can affect you, but really affect your pregnancy as well. So let's talk about the risks. The risks are greatest for BMIs that are too low or too high. And by clinical practice, I will say that I see more when you're underweight. And so BMIs under 18.5 may have the risk of having preterm labor and delivery, meaning that you have your child and deliver your child prior to 37 weeks of pregnancy. We know that babies tend to be much smaller for those who are underweight as well. We give this a term IUGR, which means that the baby is having not enough weight gain and the growth is restricted internally, and this is of high concern. Now, there are times that as an OBGYN, I will often say, hey, baby is small, but baby's small because you're small. And that is called a constitutional change. But we know that underweight babies are so much at risk of having issues, dangerous issues, that we treat them all the same, regardless of whether or not you're a small person or baby actually has a growth restriction. So being underweight opens up a lot of issues that potentially could happen with a pregnancy and with a baby. And because of that, the recommendation as far as gaining weight during pregnancy is highly supportive of someone with a BMI under 18.5 gaining much more weight in pregnancy. We encourage it because we want your baby to be in a normal range as far as size and weight, and you eating more if you are a smaller person will help your baby to develop normally. Now, if you're on the other side where you may be overweight or obese, we know that complications exist as well for babies. Babies can gain too much weight, where it now increases the likelihood of needing a cesarean section. It increases the likelihood of having like a shoulder dystocia where baby gets stuck in your pelvis during a vaginal delivery or a C-section. We also know that you may be at risk of having hemorrhage and bleeding issues because you're overweight or obese. So these outliers can increase our overall risk to the pregnancy as well as to baby. So achieving a healthy and normal pre-pregnancy weight helps your overall outlook when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum changes. It also helps with making sure that your fertility is optimized. And by that I mean it helps your ovulation to be regulated, because if you're underweight, your hormones are imbalanced, and when they are, you're not ovulating regularly. Many smaller people do not have periods on a regular basis, and that's because their hormones are not creating one and you're not ovulating regularly. The same can happen when we are obese, wherein we don't ovulate on a regular basis anymore, and because of that, we end up having lower fertility and having a more difficult time getting pregnant because of these conditions. Sometimes being on either side, underweight or overweight, may also tie into PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, another hormonal issue that inhibits your fertility, your ovulation, and your ability to get pregnant. And so being underweight or overweight may lead to you having more of a difficult time getting pregnant or a longer period of time before pregnancy is achieved. And so what do we do? Well, here are some tips. If you are underweight, this is a good time for us to get our weight up. And sometimes I know it's easier said than done. You can eat and eat and eat and eat and it just doesn't really work out and turn into weight gain the way we'd like it. But we also don't want bad weight gain, right? So we can gain weight, but we're gaining fat cells, and fat cells can be hormonally disruptive in our systems. And so we want healthy weight gain. And the way that we do that is to first see your provider and be sure that you don't have an underlying reason why you are not able to maintain a healthy weight. That could be a thyroid issue, that could be an issue with hormones that are released from your brain. You could have an issue with your kidneys or your adrenals. There's so much that can inhibit your body being able to maintain its weight. And now if you're on the other side where you have an excess amount of weight, we may also want to see a provider and be tested. Be sure that you don't have an underlying organic reason why you're gaining excessive amount of weight. And if everything is clear, we may want to see a nutritionist or someone that can help us curate healthy meal plans, or a trainer that can help us to be physically active in order to help to balance our energy in and our energy out, and so that we can achieve that healthy weight. In general, it's best to achieve this before starting a pregnancy. And so if we can get something in place now, that is best. Now, if you're currently pregnant and you're just like, listen, it's too late, I'm underweight or overweight, what can we do? We will go through the pregnancy as normally as possible and work well with your providers. I mentioned earlier the weight gain goals for someone who's underweight. This is upwards of 28 to 40 pounds that we'd want you to gain during pregnancy. A normal amount of weight gain during pregnancy would be roughly around 25 to 35 pounds. If you're overweight or obese, we may want you to gain somewhere between 11 and 20 pounds during pregnancy. And so depending on your pre-pregnancy weight, those numbers may change a little. Once you're done with pregnancy, this is also another good period for you to achieve the healthiest weight possible. And so I have something special for you today. As I know as a female myself, our hormones play such a huge part to our systems and how they work, but our weight as well. I have a highly discounted program, Madam Estrogen, a hormone mastermind, wherein I help you to achieve your weight goals. And this is highly discounted for viewers just like you at the link below this video. So if you're interested, if you need some assistance, if you want some accountability, I'm here for you. Go ahead and click that link below this video. Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you for learning together in this community. I hope to see you next time, and I hope you'll share this with someone who may need it. Take care.